Welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, coming to you 6 days a week as we interview whitetail experts and hear their traditions and personal stories of the hunt. Learn more about the latest gear, discover proven tips, and the latest strategies so you can make your next hunt a success. Now, here's your host, Bruce Hutchin.
Whitetail Rendezvous is pleased to announce a partnership with GoHunt.com. Who's GoHunt.com? Well, if you're a DIY hunter, you need the information at GoHunt.com/insider. Why? Because it provides 4,200 profiles, every unit, every species, and every season. Furthermore, they give in-depth analysis, interactive maps, unit access, and seasonal trends. Draw odds are very important, and they give you the most accurate information in the business. All this is available when you go to GoHunt.com/insider. Make sure you use promo code WR2017 when you join Insider. You'll get a $50 gift card for GoHunt.com Gear Shop. All in all, if you're hunting out west in 2018, GoHunt.com Insider is where you need to be to get all the research information. When you use promo code WR2017, Whitetail Rendezvous receives a small commission from GoHunt.com. Welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous. This is your host, Bruce Hutchin, and we're heading north of the border with Mathew Gatto. And Mathew lives north of Edmonton quite a bit, and he works on the oil sands fields. Mathew, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's exciting, and I love talking with people from Canada. I was talking to buddy Kevin McNeil yesterday. He said it was like 30 below in a place called McLean, Alberta. I'm going, man, that's cold.
Oh, I guess colder.
Does it really? Well, how cold does it get? I mean,
I've been there. It's gone down almost 60 below. That was about a few years ago.
Ambient temperature. That's not wind chill.
No, that would be with wind chill. And
That's true.
It's gone down to minus 40 without it, without the wind chill.
I mean, that could kill a man.
Oh, if he's not prepared for it, it could.
Well, let's stay right there, and I'll share some of my Canadian stories along as we go. But okay, it's 40 below. It's November. The bucks are rutting in November. Is that their most active time?
Yeah, around towards the end of October, throughout November. That's when they're active. Depends on the time of year you go. Usually if you go like late season, then with all the other hunters, they're really pressured, so they go pretty deep, and that's when you got to do a lot of tracking just to find them, right? Because they won't come out as normally as they would.
So why would I hunt late November? Just like down in the States, October 21st, 22nd, 23rd, someplace in there, there's a seeking phase, and then 26th through the 30th is kind of the chasing phase, depending on where you're at. And then, then the rut kicks in someplace around the 7th, 8th, 9th of November for the rut. And then, that's pretty much the prime 2 or 3 weeks that you want to be in a tree stand. How's that different up in Canada?
It's about the same, really. You just want to get in during the prime or in the heat of the rut, really, right?
Right.
So, you could do tree stand. I like to walk. You might want to, personally, I'm going to try and go earlier in the rut just because, with all the pressure from the other hunters, they get pushed in really deep. So it makes it more difficult for your average hunter, right? Unless you really know the area.
Let's talk about what does deep mean. Deep means to me, right smack dab in a river valley or a huge swamp. I was in Buffalo County, and I couldn't get into the swamp. The other guys could, but I could not physically get into that swamp. And it's a huge swamp and big bucks. I mean, there's no question, big bucks live there. And it's just physically I couldn't get in there. So that would be to me in deep. So what is that? What is that?
Much.
Go ahead.
Same case here. Like they get pressured. They go really deep in the bush where, they can stay away from other hunters, predators, all that, right? They like to stay in the thicks And they're really spooky around the time of year I went. They get spooked easily. So that's pretty much it.
Now, okay, if you drop into this deep stuff or thick stuff, there's no food in there, quote unquote. There's really not a lot of food. So do they turn completely nocturnal? Is that what they do?
Well, deer are primarily nocturnal. And if you know your area and know where they could feed, where there is food available, that is your best spot. And that's what I had to do really. And it was the last day of the hunt. Pretty much spent the day looking for a good spot to set up. I saw an open field where they've been feeding. They had access to food. So me and a buddy and then I was calling him in. Then a young buck came out of nowhere, grazing, and I saw my opportunity there. So it's really, you got to know your areas too, right? Know where the food is. It's pretty much it.
Now, I've heard and have seen firsthand that there's not a whole heck of a lot of deer per square mile up in Canada. Why do you think that is?
Well, really, it depends where you are. There's some areas where the population is thriving. A lot of areas where it's gone down. And the main reason is, a lot of hunters in certain areas. But the biggest reason is the wolf population is out of hand here in Canada.
So you have the same problem we do in some states with wolf predation.
Oh yeah, it's really bad, and we're trying to keep the wolf population under control. It's pretty difficult. They're a hard animal to hunt. Wolves are hard to come across, and also the cold weather. The past couple of years, I've been talking to some conservation officers up here, and they said the cold winter seasons have taken a toll on the animals, and a lot of them haven't been able to make it through the winters.
So we got predation, we got freezing cold, and it looks like this year's going to be no different.
Yeah, from my experience, it wasn't too promising as previous seasons because again, the wolf population, like the area I used to go to, it used to be pretty good, and the wolf population got out of hand. So that's really the biggest reason why the population has taken a hit is because of the wolves.
What's the Crown doing about it?
Well, there's some areas they offer bounties on wolves. They're doing a wolf call in Western Canada. So they're hiring people, sending them out by helicopter and just picking them off. Like you gotta do what you gotta do, right? You gotta be able to maintain that population. So that's what they're doing right now. And for wolves, it's an open season all year round, as long as you got a valid hunting license. So that's the step they've taken. And
but you and I both know, to even see a wolf, forget about shooting it. Even see a wolf is tough, in my opinion.
Oh, it is. It is really tough. I've come across a couple, but yeah, they're smart animals, and by the time you get your sights on them, they're gone. Right? They don't stick around long. So, they're definitely a hard animal hunt. I've even been talking to trappers, what they do about it, and they set up their trap lines for wolves, and they have a really hard time coming across them. And you can try and call them in, but it's tough. You can set up a little spot, but once the wolf once they get that feeling that something's wrong or something's out of place, they're gone, right? Like you won't see them. And that's what the trappers have been telling me, the well seasoned ones at least.
The only wolf I've ever gotten was in British Columbia, and my guide voice called them in, and but the whole key to that, and he told me the key is we're on one side of the river and they're the other side of the river, so we weren't really threatening him. He's looking for this other wolf, and so he said if we were on the same land, he probably wouldn't have come in.
Yeah, most likely. That's where I'm from, is British Columbia. I'm actually here right now on holidays. I grew up hunting in BC, and he's pretty much right about that. And BC's really taken a hit also with the wolf population. I know they've changed the regulations recently. Some areas you're allowed at least 2 bucks a year, but now it's in some areas you're only allowed 1. So 4 in total, you're allowed 2 deer, two antlered deer. Now it's only 1 across the province because the deer population I've taken a hit here. Also, the buck population is too low, so they have to change the regulations again.
Now, you hunt in Alberta, or you whitetail hunt in BC?
In Alberta, because that's where I live now.
Okay, so you came over for a job then?
In Alberta, yeah, went over there for work about 4 years ago.
Good for you. It's working out well, as you said in the warm up. Long hours, but the pay's pretty good.
Oh, more money to be in the outdoors, really.
Buy toys, right?
Oh, exactly. That's exactly what it's doing.
That's so much fun. Let's get down to your techniques. And you said, you got to know your terrain, and that's true no matter where you hunt whitetails. The more you're intimately knowledgeable about the terrain you're hunting them in, the better you can close the deal. So let's talk about closing the deal in the bush in Alberta.
Okay. So, definitely know your terrain. You want to scout your area well, learn their habits. I like to do a lot of walking when I hunt. Sometimes I'll set up and make a little blind sometimes, and I'll try and call something in. So like this one I recently got, that whitetail buck, it was just a young one, but it was my last trip of the season. I had to put meat in the freezer. So what I did was drove around. I was like, okay, here, this is where they feed. You see a lot of activity. There's food available here, and there's an old tree stand that was abandoned years ago. So buddy and I went up there. I laid some scent down, made a couple calls and some rattles, and 10 minutes later, this young buck comes rolling in, looking around, and he's feeding. So that's basically all I do, right? I try to do as much scouting as I can in the spring, summertime, before I go out for my season, and learn the area as well. Because once you know your area, you're always prepared for, well, not always prepared, but you can be more prepared for what that type of terrain, what that area has to offer, right?
Now, do you look for funnels and pinch points or topographical features that'll, basically change how the deer are moving?
I look for all of that, and then, even during season, I look for scrape marks and obviously footprints, and you can see where they've been rutting. And it seems like it's a bit of a pattern, right? So, in most areas.
Now, in your estimation, how big is their home range for a mature buck? Mature bucks over 150, 4.5 years old. What would you say, home range of that buck is up in your country?
Whereabouts they are? I've only come across them, honestly, around farmland. They like to stay in there, and they'll come out after shooting time. So that's the only time I've seen them. If you're lucky enough, you can cut them off in the mornings when they're gonna jump back over the fence line there into their little safe haven.
So, in your estimation, it's difficult to get on those big bucks because everybody hears, hello.
One second. Sorry, you're cutting.
Little technical difficulties here, folks. There we go. We're back online.
Sorry, I had a call coming in. I think that's why.
Yeah, I'm sure that's right. So let's talk about, because everybody hears about the monster Canadian bucks, where you're in Saskatchewan, Alberta, parts of Ontario, even some places in BC.
Yeah.
So a big buck isn't the norm up there for a hunter to see?
Depends on your area, really, or on how well you know your area. I know people that have gone bucks that have grossed well over 100, right? But they've been hunting their area for so many years, so they know it very well, right? And then also like the whole deer population in certain areas does play a big factor.
Yeah, because most of the guys down here and gals, they want to see a mature buck over 150.
Yeah.
And any deer over 150 is a large buck. There's some people that shoot 180s and 200s all the time, and good luck to you, but that's not the norm. It really isn't. And I've heard in Canada that in a 5-day hunt you might see one mature buck in the whole hunt, just because of the lack of density of bucks in any given area. Does that resonate with you, or is?
Well, definitely it does. Really. Um, yeah, they're like I know Saskatchewan's got some really big bucks. I've had friends. Well, I got friends over there, and they shot monster whitetail. Even in Alberta, but even they're saying the areas they're hunting and their population is starting to take a hit, and because of the predator problem, right? So it's really, from what I'm hearing and the research I've done, it's really hit and miss now to see, well, even to come across a monster buck. I've seen them at night, right, when they all come out. But even like during the day, though, it's pretty tough to come across them. Like they're smart animals, so I'll give them that.
Now, you said your go-to technique is walking, and I'm trying to understand. Okay, if I'm walking, one through the bush is really tough. So where the heck am I walking?
Well, first after I learn an area, like when I go there for the season, for my hunting season now, I look for scrape marks, I look for fresh tracks, and then I go from there. I if the tracks are fresh enough, I'll follow them, and I'll try and call them in also. That's basically what I do, and I'm still learning. It's a learning experience every day, right? Or every hunt I go on.
Yep, agreed.
And every trip, you learn more and more about it. Like I'm not going to come across as some professional, right?
Well,
There's
no, I
always
mean, I've been
something
hunting a
to learn.
long time. I don't
Oh,
have all the answers.
no, neither do I. And I talk to people that have hunted for years, and even they say it's a learning experience every day, right? They're always learning something new on their hunt, and I completely agree with them there.
Now, are you hunting with a bow or a rifle, muzzleloader, crossbow?
Rifle right now, and then I'm gonna look into getting a bow this summer for get ready for a deer hunt. I want to start to get into bow hunting. I'm really interested in it.
Yeah, it gives you more time. I know in the States, um, Wisconsin, where I hunt predominantly, you can start sometime in September, and I think the hunt just ended or will end, January 1st. I mean, that's months and months and months and months,
Yeah,
of opportunity, and yeah, it's months of opportunity. So, if you spend enough time in the woods, you know, even I can shoot a deer if I spend enough time in my tree stand.
on if you have your tree stand set up in a good location, right? Um, Also, but yeah, I think our season ends in November, end of November.
When's
Bow
it start?
definitely.
When's it start?
I believe it's September for bow. September, and then you get more options too, like for draws, special draws for like moose or elk. You don't like if you don't need a draw if you're hunting with a bow. You just go. Oh, you can go earlier, and you can just buy a general elk or moose tag, right? Instead of having to get a draw for rifle season in summer in a lot of areas.
What was that? Bump bump.
Message. I'm doing this on my.
We're getting weird sounds out of Alberta, Canada today. Anyway, so I'm thinking here, and we did this on Facebook Live. Hopefully that came through. But what are a few of the things that you'd recommend to people coming from the U.S. Into Canada, either solo or I think hunters host or however you can do it. What are some of the recommendations you'd make to them?
Well, obviously, if you're going to come up here, you'll need a hunter's host or a guide. Then whoever's taking you has to have that hunter's host license or certificate for Alberta, for example. Make sure they do know their areas. Generally, if you're going to be with a guide, they will know their area. Um, be prepared for the cold weather if you're coming late season. Dress well for it. You can never have too much gear, in my opinion, right? And that's about it, really. Like, I've taken guys from out of province over to Alberta, and I tell them the same thing, right? Make sure, like, I always make sure I got what I need for them. Make sure you got your tags. Make sure the guy's legal. Obviously, make sure he's got his license. Dress for the weather, definitely. Like, when I brought my buddy and his dad out, and it was colder this season, I took him out than the previous season. And I told him, like, hey, man, we're going to have a cold front come in. Like, dress warm, bring a lot of warm gear. And they did. So it was definitely a better time. And yeah, know your area, really. That's really the best advice I can give them. That's what I tell everyone.
Explain hunter host. What does that mean?
So basically, if you wanted to, so you're in the States, or if you wanted to come to Alberta, I'd be your hunter host. So I'd have to go online, buy my tags, then I got to buy a hunter host license. And then I have to get you a license for Alberta. So you got to fill out an application, then you get a hunter's number. So once you got your hunter's number, when I fill out my hunter's host license, I got to put in your name and your hunter's number into the computer, and then I got to submit it. And that tells conservation, it tells wildlife that you're going to be hunting with me, and it's all legal, right? So once that's submitted, I get a certificate as a hunter's host, and with your information down, who I'm hosting, and you got to be within talking distance at all times.
So it sounds like in the past, people have said, yeah, come on up and we'll go hunt, and you pay them a couple of bucks. So they're really outfitting, but they're not outfitting. So this kind of takes the whole thing away. You know, if you want to do that, invite me up, then this is the process you're going to do that. So there's any question about who's, what, where, and how. Is that basically it?
Yeah, pretty much. That's essentially what it is. So,
well, that's a good deal if you have, friends in Edmonton. Now, that tag's good for any place in Alberta, the hunter host?
yes, it is.
Except,
all across.
Yeah, doesn't Edmonton have that archery only zone?
Yeah, there's archery only zones, and then there's Camp Wainwright, and that's a military base, and they open it to the general. Well, not the general public. You need to get a draw for it. So every year they release so many tags for the draws. So there's Camp Wainwright, and there's archery only zones. So yeah, you're right with that.
Now, you just mentioned elk and moose. Now, is it pretty good elk hunting in Alberta so that somebody in the lower 48 or, south of the border could come up and hunt an elk?
See, the areas where I was hunting, like I was asking around, the populations have taken a really big hit over the years. They're not as big as they used to be. Like, we ran into a couple herds of cow elk while we were hunting elk last season. No bulls, but the herd population has definitely gotten smaller from what I've been told. Now, it depends where in Alberta. I'm still trying to find a good spot for elk hunting. Something with like a place with a healthy population. I try and stay away from areas where the population has taken a big hit, just because I want to see obviously the population thrive again. Like, conservation to me is a really big thing, right? So,
because you got all the mountains just west of Calgary. I know in the past there's been some great elk hunting over in that country.
yeah, apparently it's still pretty good. And then I just don't know the areas over there. I went more towards Hinton, or I went to Grand Prairie, sorry. Hinton's going to be next year. I went to Grand Prairie. And yeah, what the locals were telling me, it's taken a hit. It's a really hard area to hunt too, because around late season, they go on the farmland, private land, and no one wants to give you permission for that, just because they've had a lot of bad experiences with hunters in the past, which is unfortunate. It's not a good name for us, but
just like every other place in North America, unfortunately. I say that with sadness because we've done it to ourselves, and we just have.
Well, I know what you're saying there. That's true, but it starts from somewhere. Like, everyone in my family, like all the men, are hunters, but the way we were brought up, like, we gotta we all got to stick together here. But if someone's like, I've had permission from a couple people last season to hunt on their land, and you got to be respectful about it. And it all starts from summer, right? Like whether it's whoever's brought you up as a hunter, really. Like there's people that just go on these farmers' land and without permission, and they're driving on their crops, ruining their crops, and it was to the point where the people were doing more damage to their crops than the animals were, right? And that's the problem we've been having in Canada with hunters. Like they just not a lot of people seems like respects the land anymore, right? And it's an unfortunate situation, really.
No, those people out of the city, it doesn't, my neighbor, our neighbors, along the Baraboo River, do we drive on the fields? Yeah, but they're already picked, and,
Yeah.
and you leave gates as you found them. There isn't a whole heck of a lot that you need to do right to do it right. Does that make sense?
Makes sense. And yeah, it is a lot of the, like, I don't want to, there's some, out of the city, yeah, that's where they're having a lot of problems from, supposedly. Like, I don't want to group them all together because, I know some good hunters that live in the city that are respectful. But it seems like a lot of the complaints are people coming out of the city doing that sort of thing, which is unfortunate. And then it doesn't give us hunters a good name at all.
No. So you and I own the farm, and I'm your dad, and somebody comes over. What are we talking about? Wheat or beans or corn? What kind of crop?
If I want to go on their farm or
No. What kind of crop are we growing?
crop for you, wheat, a lot of wheat farms where I was at. I think that was a majority of it, really. And
So what recourse do I have? You're out there hunting, and all of a sudden these people come through with their 4x4s, and they're just beating the crap out of my wheat field. So what can we do?
well, I wouldn't do that, but I know some farmers in the past have taken their guns out and said,
Yeah.
"What the hell are you doing on my land?"
Right.
And you know what? I'll back them up on that. Like you're destroying someone's lifestyle, really. First of all,
Yeah.
it's private property. Don't do that. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes is what they say. Because the cops aren't really doing anything about it up here, or and conservation. We don't have enough conservation officers up here to be dealing with that stuff. Also, because there's a lot of poaching going on too in Alberta. Numbers have gone up over the years, and they don't have the resources at the moment to be handling all these cases.
Poaching for eating or poaching for selling trophy racks?
There's poaching for eating, but poaching's poaching. I'm against it. Do it legally. And there's people poaching for trophies, really, which is disgusting. I don't consider people like that hunters at all.
They're not. They're thieves. They're criminals. Pick an adjective. And have I made mistakes in the field? You bet. And I don't care if you're hunting as long as I do. You're going to make some mistakes. But
We got to own up to it.
yeah, you figure it out and get on down the road. But as far as all the rest, it's just like we get enough battles, I guess, with people anti-hunters. I guess I'll leave it at that. What?
Because we had a problem in Alberta too. Like, I know we're supposed to be talking about whitetail, but we got a guy that came up for cougar hunting. His name's Steve Uckland, I think, and he's an ambassador for Cabela's. I don't know if you heard about it. It was all over Facebook. And he harvested a cougar, and he went through all the legal procedures, and all of a sudden it hits the news, and all the anti-hunters on his Facebook page, even on his personal page, like the comments were just disgusting, right?
Yeah.
And the problem is, like, I'm not gonna say they're all bad. Some of them have a brain, right? But when they like to group, I find they like to group poachers and hunters in the same group, which isn't right at all. and they got to really learn their facts, these anti-hunters, because they don't look at the research at all, right?
They don't care. They do not care. They got their tunnel vision or whatever you want to call it, and they just say, you're wrong because you killed this cat, and I'm going to castrate you. I would like to castrate you. I mean, it gets worse than that. It really does.
I'm looking at a study here right now from the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, a scientific study. So let's see. This is for whitetails, for example. In 1900, there were only 500,000 whitetails. And, hunters are the biggest contributors to conservation. We can all agree on, right?
No question.
Now there's more than 32 million in North America. This is for North America, right? So, they got to look at studies like this.
They don't care, though. You could, till you're blue in the face, show, here's the data. Here's how I've helped that. Cameron Hayes has got a pretty good string on Instagram right now, and it's about, people don't understand, some people don't understand that by me shooting a Cape Buffalo is more humane than watching that Cape Buffalo get eaten alive by a pride of lions. Literally eaten alive.
Oh, that's just
guts ripped out. I just eaten alive. And there was another one they had where this grizzly bear, I think it was on Yellowstone Park, doesn't matter. But so the cow elk drops her calf, right? And as soon as she comes up, the grizzly is eating that live calf.
Yeah.
And they don't, anti-hunters don't want to hear that. It'll go, that's their right to do that. Yeah. I'd at least be that calf and get eaten alive. The bull's a lot better.
Well, even the arguments they've even said to me, it's like, oh, I get my food from the store, the supermarket, my meat. Like,
you're right.
Like, do you not look into what like cattle have to go through once process that meat? Like, it's disgusting, really.
A slaughterhouse is disgusting. I mean, it is.
And what we do is more humane. And like, I haven't met a hunter that doesn't feel any remorse when they harvest an animal, right? There's always that remorse because, we took the life of an animal, and, we really do appreciate it because, it's meat in the freezer, right? But they don't look at it like that. They think we're out there for the thrill, for the joy of it, just to slaughter everything. But they got to look outside their little world there, right? They got to, from a different perspective is what they got to look at.
Yeah,
right? Like,
we can say they don't have to do anything because they're right and we're wrong. And it's just like being thankful for every game animal I put down. It could be a duck, it could be a pheasant, it could be an elk, it could be whatever game animal I put down. And I'm thankful for it. Why? Because of the recreation, the adventure, my trips up into Canada. I mean, yeah, I pulled the trigger, but meeting people like yourself or somebody else and hanging out at some of these small towns and talking to the farmers. I mean, the whole thing is the experience. It isn't just killing something, in my opinion.
It is about the experience, right? And that's why I love to hunt. But, they don't choose to see it that way because they don't want to. Like, there's parts in Alberta where these anti-hunters go, and if they see a hunter, they'll try and disrupt the wildlife, right? So the hunter doesn't get a chance to harvest an animal, which is also illegal,
right?
And it's like you got to be careful on what you post now on social media, right? You like when I post my deer on Instagram, I want to share it with people that follow me, right? Because they enjoy what I enjoy. Like, I can't remember her name though. It was in the States, I believe. She committed suicide because I think she harvested a giraffe, I believe, in Africa. I don't know if you remember this.
No,
but
I'm just trying to think back.
Can't remember her name. And
she died?
She committed suicide. Right? A couple of them have, because all these anti-hunters go on their Facebook page and just post disgusting comments where it pushes them to that point, right? It's disgusting.
I would dump my Facebook page myself. I just become invisible. I don't know. I wasn't aware of that, so I'll shut up.
I would take the joy in it, really. Like, oh, this offends you? Yeah, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter to me.
But you go to
Right,
my Facebook page, my British Columbia wolf is right there.
no, I
Oh,
don't care
well.
who I offend, really. Like, I'm doing me, and this is what hunters have to start to speak out and present more facts, because, like, when it comes to the anti-hunters, it seems like they have more of a voice than the hunters, and there's more of us hunters, and we got to start, speaking up more and presenting the facts, really. Like, we got to start fighting back, because, if you give these anti-hunters more of a voice, then you're going to see the way things change when it comes to hunting, right? Like in British Columbia, they banned grizzly hunting
Yes, they did.
altogether.
And why did they do that?
Well, because they're, like, I know it was the Great Bear Rainforest and it was for trophy hunting, but there's just a misconception, really, on this trophy hunting. Like, they think hunters just leave the meat. Like, you can't do that in Canada. That is illegal. You got to take the meat.
You can't do that anywhere.
Most civilized country, really. Like, there's laws in place for a reason, or else you face the consequences if you break them, right? We got the Wildlife Act here, and we got to abide by it. So,
well, we've gone all around the map, haven't we? So this was a few years ago, and the mount's in a different room in my house. But anyway, so I flew up. I went to Edmonton, then I went to Lloydminster, then I headed north. Actually, right along the border, Alberta, Saskatchewan border. And for 4 days, it was 21 degrees below zero.
Yeah.
4 days, from 7 to 4 every single day.
It was like that for a week for me. And yeah, you know what?
You got to be mentally tough. I mean, I had the gear, obviously. I had everything I needed to wear, but it was the mental process of just being that cold for that long, that many hours a day. And then, I shot a nice 152 deer, and that was my first trip up to Canada. So, good mature deer, was happy as heck. And the funny thing is, when I got him, the sun came out, the temperature dropped, and I actually sat outside my blind until the guide came and picked me up.
Well, no, it's definitely rewarding, and yeah, you're right. You gotta be mentally tough for it. Like, your gear can only go so far, right?
Right. There's no, if you're not ready for it. I know I got into one blind up there, and I called the guy after about 2 hours and said, I can't hunt out of this blind. I just can't do it. Come and get me. And so we went back, had lunch, and then went to another blind. But so you have to know that.
Well, that's another thing when I talk about if you're going to come up to Canada to hunt, you got to be prepared, and the mentality of it is definitely a thing. If you're not mentally tough, that could be, if a situation arose, that could be a life and death situation, right?
Yep.
So you always got to be prepared for whatever's thrown at you, really.
And the other thing, and this happened to a friend of mine, he went up there and had a very nice deer in front of him. I don't know how big he is. He said it was a big deer. And then he pulled the trigger and it went click because the firing pin had frozen, because he did not degrease his firing pin. So, folks, if you're going to north of the border, below zero, you need to take your firing pin apart and degrease that sucker, or it won't work at 20, 30 below zero. Correct?
You do, and I believe I saw a video on it on Field and Stream Facebook page. They posted a video on doing that. They say the same thing too, or else, if luck's not on your side and that happens to you,
you're screwed. You're screwed. And there's a buck of your dream looking up at you going, hi, how are you today?
Exactly.
It's not funny, folks. It's not funny at all, but it's all these little things that if you're going to go north of the border when it's cold, I'm not talking about September, October, I'm talking about November, onward. It's you need to get with your outfitter or who's ever invited you up as a friend and figure it out, because you're spending a lot of money. I know I talked to a guy the other day, $7,500 for 9 days, 55 for 5 days, $1,000 a day, basically. Plus airfare, plus. It ain't cheap, to come up there. So you owe it to yourself. If your plans are going to Canada for 2018, start your homework now. Talk to your gunsmith. Say, okay, how do I make sure this thing's degreased? Because if it's not, it's going to hang up and I'm screwed. And talk about calibers because those are big deer. I mean, 300-pound whitetails are the norm. I mean, no big deal.
Well, I use a 300 Win Mag, but 30-06, good all around caliber, really.
And I used 165 Nosler and partition and my 30-06, stainless steel. That's what I use. But it's just, I can't say that this too much. If you're going to do it, do it right. Don't think you've got it figured out without talking to people up there, been there, done that. And because if you don't, as we discussed on the show, you could be in a world of hurt, especially if the guide's Jeep or truck or snowmobile breaks down. What are you going to do?
Oh, yeah, exactly. You got to be prepared. Like I pack my pack when I'm walking. Like I have stuff for I'll carry my axe. A lot of extra clothing, definitely. Fire starter. Like you can never carry enough. There's guys I know that will carry just 40 pounds in gear just to start a fire or something, right? If their hunt went downhill.
Yeah, and it does it? Every once in a while.
To me, stuck. Was driving to a spot, and then all of a sudden my truck sank. I had to walk 20 kilometers out of the bush. Right, that wasn't fun.
No, how much is that state-wise? Is 10, 15 miles?
Something like that. Yeah, I believe.
That's a long way.
Fun. Well, it was minus 20 at the time, but still, it's not fun. Right, so you really got to be prepared.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
They come back to learning experience for sure.
Yeah, I wouldn't like that because you can't just snuggle in your truck and wait till somebody comes by.
Not where I was. I was lucky enough to come across someone, and then they ended up towing me out. They were actually on their way in to pull out their brother-in-law. I was like, well, you know what? These guys helped me out. I'm going to go help them out. So did that. Didn't end up getting his brother-in-law pulled out just because of how bad it was out there. Everything was thawing out and it was all swampy. It wasn't good.
That's crazy. Well, folks, we kind of, we've beaten around the bush, and that's a pun intended. But Mathew, thank you so much for being a guest on Whitetail Rendezvous, and look forward to seeing your pictures from this coming year. And if I ever get up in that country, I'd love to buy you a beer.
Perfect. Well, for that.
Stay tuned for the next episode of Whitetail Rendezvous. We're heading up to New Hampshire, and Sean Mackey is going to be our guest. And Sean does a heck of a lot of things. And right off the bat, Sean, thank you for your service to our country. And I know recovery's been a little bumpy road, but you're getting back at it. And Sean loves to hunt whitetails, but he does it behind his neighbor's house, his brother's house, in real small plots. But he's got some great stories. He's also a dog musher, and he loves to do that to help. He's got dogs to help him get the deer out of the woods. Fancy that. All in all, Sean's one heck of a guy, and I'm sure you're going to enjoy listening to Sean Mackey from New Hampshire.
Thanks for joining us. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, where you can listen and learn from the experts so you can be more successful on your next hunt. Until next time, listen, learn, and succeed.